If you feel stuck right now, it's probably not because you're lazy, and it's not because you don't want it badly enough. It's because the way you are trying to make progress is quietly triggering your nervous system to shut down. Hello and welcome to Uplifted Living, the podcast for living uplifted. I'm Nick Gilbert, and I'm really glad you're here. This is a space for thoughtful conversations about growth, clarity, and living with intention without the pressure to rush, perform, or constantly improve. Let's begin. Most of us were taught that progress requires pressure. We believe that if we aren't moving forward, the solution is more discipline, more intensity, more force. We treat ourselves like machines that just need to be pushed harder to go faster. But here's what no one talks about. Pressure works until it doesn't. And when it stops working, it doesn't just slow you down. It creates a wall. Today, we're going to look at why your brain is resisting your goals and how to switch from a strategy of high intensity to a strategy of high repeatability. Because burnout isn't a personal failure, it's a signal. One of the most misunderstood things about being stuck is that we assume it's a mindset issue. We think we just need to get tough. But more often, it's a biological issue. When you associate a task with high pressure, when you tell yourself, I have to do this perfectly, or I need to grind this out, you are sending a specific message to your nervous system. You're telling your body that this task is a threat. It's not just mental fiction. It's physiological. Your body enters a subtle fight or flight mode. And since you can't fight the spreadsheet and you can't turn away from your career and run away, you enter the third state, freeze. You might recognize this pattern. You start the week with high motivation. You have a plan. You push hard on Monday. But by Wednesday, you feel this heavy, invisible weight. You start procrastinating on things you actually want to do. You think, why am I self-sabotaging? You aren't self-sabotaging. Your body is protecting you. It has learned that growth equals stress, and your system is designed to avoid stress to keep you safe. So if you're feeling burned out or resistant, the solution isn't to push harder against the wall. It's to lower the threat level. We need to stop asking, how do I force myself to do this? And start asking, how do I make this feel safe enough to repeat? This brings us to the biggest trap in personal growth, the intensity illusion. We live in a culture that glorifies the sprint, the 30-day challenge, the all-nighter, the beast mode workout. We love intensity because it feels like progress. It's loud. It's visible. It feels like we are doing something, but intensity has a hidden cost. It requires a massive withdrawal of energy from your reserves. And if you don't have enough margin, enough recovery, sleep, and emotional space, that withdrawal puts you in debt. Let's look at a specific example. Maybe you want to get back into reading. The intensity approach is deciding you will read one book a week. You force yourself to read 50 pages on day 1. You feel proud. Day 2, you're tired, but you push through 50 pages. Day 3, you have a headache. Work ran late. And looking at that book feels like looking at a dumbbell. You skip it. Then the shame kicks in. I failed again. I have no discipline. But you didn't fail because you lacked discipline. You failed because the effort wasn't repeatable. You optimized for speed, not sustainability. One of the most profound things I've learned is that your brain remembers how an activity ends. If every workout, every writing session, or every work project ends with you feeling depleted, exhausted, and drained, your brain marks that activity as dangerous. Next time you try to start, your brain will scream, no. That is the resistance you feel. It's the memory of the last time you depleted yourself. So, what is the alternative? If we don't push, how do we grow? We have to shift our focus from intensity to repeatability. A gentle reset doesn't mean giving up on growth. It means changing the way you grow. The goal is to find the safety threshold. This is the level of effort you can exert where your nervous system stays calm. It looks like this. Instead of asking, what is the most I can handle? You ask, what is the version of this habit that I can do even on my worst day? If you want to write, maybe the intensity version is 1,000 words. The repeatable version might be 3 sentences. If you want to exercise, the intensity version is an hour of cardio. The repeatable version might be a 10-minute walk. I know what you're thinking, but that's too small. That won't get me results. This is where we have to reframe the timeline. Intensity wins the day, but repeatability wins the year. When you keep the effort within the safety threshold, something magical happens. You finish the task and you don't feel depleted. You might even feel like you could have done more. And that is exactly where you want to stop. Leaving something in the tank. When you stop before you are exhausted, you signal to your brain, this was safe. We can do this again. You begin to build a relationship with effort built on trust, not force. You stop needing so much willpower because you aren't fighting a threat response anymore. If you're finding this concept of safety over speed helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe. We talk a lot about mental well-being here, but next week we're going to talk specifically about self-trust, which is the natural result of this process. Now let's get practical. How do we actually remove resistance in real time? It starts by acknowledging that your capacity is not a constant. It fluctuates. Some days you have 100% battery. Some days you have 20%. Burnout often comes from asking 100% of yourself when you only have 20% to give. To remove resistance, you need to give yourself permission to lower the bar on the hard days. This isn't laziness. It's accommodation. If you have a high-pressure deadline, you need to create margin elsewhere. You can't be high performance in your career, your fitness, your diet, and your social life all at the same exact moment without paying a cost. Look at your life right now. Where are you applying the most pressure? Where are you white-knuckling it? Try this experiment for 1 week. Cut the intensity in half. If you run half the distance. If you work on a side project, work for half the time. But, and this is key, do it with full focus and zero guilt. Notice what happens to the dread. Notice what happens to the resistance. When you lower the stakes, you usually find that the joy of the activity returns. You remember why you wanted to do it in the first place. Progress doesn't have to hurt to count. In fact, the most sustainable progress is the kind that feels almost too easy in the moment. It's not about how fast you go today. It's about whether you can show up again tomorrow. So if you are feeling the weight of resistance, don't push harder. Do the opposite. Remove the friction. Lower the bar. Make it safer for your nervous system to say yes instead of asking, how do I get back to peak performance? Try asking, what would support me right now in this moment? That shift alone can change everything. If you want to understand how to build the trust that keeps this cycle going, watch this video next. It explains the psychology of keeping promises to yourself. I'll see you there. If this episode resonated with you, consider following or subscribing to the show and sharing it with someone who might need a gentle way forward. Also, be sure to follow the Instagram page at Uplifted Living Podcast. I'll leave the link in the bio. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and continue to uplift both yourself and those around you. Thank you for listening.